Hello, good morning, and welcome to today's Speakers for Schools Industry Spotlight Talk. I hope you've had a lovely morning so far. We are delighted you're here joining us today. I'm Sarah, your host. You'll be hearing from some of our industry insiders today. An industry insider is someone currently working in an industry, living out the experiences that come with building a career. We have up to an hour for this session with a presentation from our speakers before moving into a time of Q&A. So questions for our speakers can be submitted now via the Q&A function underneath the stream. You might have to scroll down a little bit on your screen to find that. Please do submit questions. We'd love to hear from you, and so would our speakers. If you're having any issues at all during this time, let us know via the same box. We do our best to support you throughout today. So today we're hearing from some of the team at Anthony Nolan, who are here to shed light on the great work they're involved with, but also what it's like having a career in the medical industry and what that can look like. So I'm going to invite Jemma, Michaela, and Carl up now to start. Hi, welcome.
Hi.
Morning, good to have you all here. I'm really excited to hear what you're going to share with us today. So over to all of you.
Thanks so much for having us. We're going to talk through what it's like having a career at Anthony Nolan and everything that we do now. Next slide, please. So my name's Jemma. I'm a partnership officer in register development. So in register development, it's all about recruiting new people to the stem cell register. And I work with our partners who recruit people to the register on our behalf. That involves a lot of relationship management, making sure that we're both getting an equal partnership opportunity and growing and diversifying our stem cell register.
Yep, and I'm Kyle. I'm the head of technical services in the Anthony Nolan laboratories in London. So I manage a team of 8 scientists, and our job is to get all the samples in, whether that's blood or cheek swabs or cells, and extract the DNA from those so that they can be typed. We also work to do virus screening in the laboratories, blood grouping, and lots of other bits. But my role as the head of the team is to basically look to the future and see what do we need in the years to come. What will be some changes in the landscape of stem cell transplants, and do we need new technologies? How can we help our patients with that and upgrade our science continuously?
I'm Michaela. I'm the senior postdoctoral bioinformatics research scientist in the research department. So bioinformatics is kind of where you combine biology and computer science and maths to answer questions kind of about biology. So I lead what we call the population genetics work, which is kind of looking at the genetics on Anthony Nolan register like as a whole to better understand how we can provide matches to patients. And what we're going to cover today is kind of who is Anthony Nolan, what is the work that we do. We're each going to talk about our different paths to Anthony Nolan and our careers. And finally, we'll end with a bit about how you can get involved.
Amazing. So who is Anthony Nolan? We are named after a very brave little boy called Anthony Nolan. We are the charity that makes life-saving connections between people with blood cancer or blood disorders and incredible strangers ready to donate their stem cells. We have been going for 50 years now, which is really incredible. And we were the world's first stem cell register. And it all started with a little boy called Anthony and his mum, Shirley Nolan. Anthony had a rare genetic condition that meant he needed a stem cell transplant in order to survive. But at the time, stem cell transplants were only available for sibling donors, and Shirley Nolan, having kind of no expertise or background, decided that that wasn't good enough and she wanted to save her little boy. So she went on a mission to find any strangers that would sign up to see if they could potentially be a match with Anthony and save his life. She started to record all of these people in a register to see if one day, if they couldn't save Anthony's life, if they could save another person's life. And thus she created the first stem cell register. Unfortunately, we were never able to find a match for Anthony, but because of her, thousands of people's lives have been extended or saved, and she created the world's first stem cell register. And now every day we give 4 people a second chance at life.
So we talk a lot about stem cells, and Anthony Nolan is associated very heavily with stem cells, but it's often the case that people are not too sure what they are. There may be something that you guys have come across so far in various studies or in any capacity, but essentially stem cells are whatever makes up all of your blood cells. So they differentiate, they change into all of your blood cells, and they're made in the bone marrow. So where somebody isn't very well because they've got blood cancer or one of those blood disorders that Jemma was talking about, they are having issues creating those blood cells and they have cancer. As a result, this is where we come in. So our job is to match these people with these patients with a very generous individual who's on our register. We can transplant the stem cells that they have, and therefore reduce or remove the cancer that they have, and the cells that it's producing are healthy once again. That's our role. And this is a little video about a partnership between one of our patients and our donors from a project that we call the Hero Project.
So when I was 17, I started getting horrible headaches. I started feeling really, really tired, really short of breath and constantly just achy and sleepy. And then on one Friday, my dad forced me to go and have a blood test. Cried the whole way through it. And then at 3 o'clock in the morning the following day, we were met by a horrible knock at the door and blue flashing lights. I was told that I had cancer, and the rest of it was just a bit of a blur. I was treated on a cancer ward, and hearing the word transplant was really quite normal. I had loads of friends that had had them, so I thought, fine, if I need to have one, that's perfectly normal. The hard part is obviously the recovery and actually how it feels. But I really didn't think that finding a donor would be the hard part for me.
I remember getting the call from someone from Anthony Nolan, and because it had been about 3 years since I signed up, I actually I forgot. And I signed up originally because my sister signed up, and she knew someone who needed a transplant, but there was no hesitation in my mind of wanting to do this for someone. So when I donated via bone marrow, which only 10% of people actually end up doing, and the other 90%, basically you go to the centre, you're there for about 5 hours, you're hooked up to a machine which takes the blood out of one arm, filters out the stem cells, and then puts the blood back into the other arm.
If you're from a minority ethnic background, the chances of finding a good match are significantly lower than if you're from a white background. You know, I'm so grateful for those friends that had those matches, because they wouldn't be here today. But I was also deeply just worried that maybe there would be no outcome for me, and I didn't really understand why. But spoiler alert, I'm here and I'm able to share my story with you today.
Two years after, you can share your information with the person you donated to. And then one day I was in town and looked down and I had a Facebook message from someone, and I thought, I don't recognise that name, I'll give it a read. And it happened to be the girl I donated to. Seeing her well and with her family and travelling and at uni and doing all these things made everything worth it.
That's such a special video, and we're so grateful to Annie and Ethan for sharing their stories with us, but they are definitely not alone, and we affect hundreds of people every single year. So we're about to go through what is the work that we do and how do we save lives like Annie's. So we have lots of divisions in our organisation. We're an extremely large and complicated organisation, and we are split into the following divisions. So we have the Chief Executive Office, we have engagement, which is where I work, which is all about connecting with the public and bringing them into our organisation, just like things like this today. We have finance and resource. We have fundraising, which is obviously how we keep going as an organisation. We have operations and patient services. We have research, strategy, and technology. So we recruit people to the stem cell register. That is a lot of the work that I do. So I sit in a department called Register Development in Engagement. So what we do simply in register development is grow and diversify our stem cell register. And that is all about holding events like this, coming into schools, attending other events, like at the weekend we were at Michael Beebe's festival, all to just connect with the public and recruit them to the stem cell register. Match donors to those in need. So whether it's in the UK or anywhere in the world, we are the ones connecting the donors with the patients to give them another chance at life. So that is a lot of the work that Carl was saying that his team does. We are working with all of the different scientific bits and bobs that I have absolutely no idea about, and connecting those people together.
And so, yeah, our state-of-the-art labs and cell therapy centre, kind of where we test donor samples and prepare cells for patients in needs. And we also do a lot of research, which is the department I'm in. And so it's really all centred around kind of finding the best donors, discovering new ways that we can improve patient outcomes. Because even though just because we can find a donor for a patient, we're also looking at like, what's the best donor, and is there a better donor? Are there new ways we can do that matching process? And cell therapy is really like a growing part of what's happening in the research world, and is expanding into clinical world. So we're also kind of matching that and expanding our services to support these kind of new treatments and kind of continue hoping to try and save lives.
Yeah, so some of the work done by the organisation also includes lobbying, which essentially means that we complete research, we contribute to research, we provide information, and we champion causes for governments and local councils to review and make decisions on. And these can be things that we think are important to the country, to the stem cell community, and to our patients, and may require input from these sort of higher level points of the country. So an example is in 2017, we championed second transplants, where we were pushing to ensure that people who did need a second transplant because they needed some more stem cells, or the first one didn't work as well as we would have liked, making sure that there's the funding for that from the government. And that was very successful for us. This one's about raising awareness. So all over the organisation, we're able to go to events. We're able to talk to the general public if we would like to, as volunteers in our group. So this can mean that you add more people to the register. It can mean that you're out there looking to get a bit of money for us as a charity. And if you're somebody who's considering or is going to university, then there's a group called Marrow, who we'll touch on later as well, which is a uni society who runs stalls all over campuses in the UK to encourage students to join the register. We attend events like Pride, we were there at the weekend, different conferences to talk about our work, and there's also an annual ball that we run to raise awareness and funds for the organisation. And in my 10 years, I've gone to many of these events. Fundraising is really key as a charity for us to continue building that register, getting the cool new robots in that I would like, and many other organisation groups that require money to keep themselves running. And ultimately, as a group, we are reliant on people being selfless and giving to us, whether that is joining the register, giving their stem cells, or fundraising in this case. And yeah, behind the scenes, everybody does an incredible job. I think as you get out into the world and into your careers, you're going to meet people with a huge number of different roles that you've never heard of before in your life. And I think one of the best things about work is meeting so many people and the diversity that it does have. People care about what they do, and you get an insight in a meeting, a Monday morning call, a conference, into what people enjoy and what they care about. And all of that contributes to a larger picture, which is us looking after our patients. So we're just going to go through individually, the three of us, on our career paths and some career tips that we have for you guys.
Amazing, thank you so much. So I'm going to talk you through some of the things that are quite important to me. We're all going to cover quite different things, but it was nice that when we were speaking, actually a lot of the things that we wanted to speak about crossed over. So hopefully you'll get a really good coverage of career paths at different points with totally different journeys, but all having quite similar themes. So I wanted to start by talking about your brain is your superpower. So I don't know if any of you have seen the new documentary that Jamie Oliver has released. It's all about how 25% of the people sat in your classroom identify as neurodivergent, if they know it now or in the future. And I am one of those people. So I was diagnosed with dyslexia in year 10, so at a great time to shift all of my predicted grades to way lower than I actually ended up receiving. But I think that there's a massive stigma around being dyslexic or having ADHD or identifying as neurodivergent a different way, and that it will affect your career negatively in the future or just your kind of future outcomes. I'm here to tell you that is absolutely incorrect, and I hope that that is taught very well at your school. You think so differently to other people, and right now that might feel like a challenge because school is very much all trying to think one way, learn in the same way, test in the same way, and ultimately get the qualifications that you need to move forward in the same way. But once you get to the career that you're supposed to be in, it is absolutely a superpower that your brain thinks slightly differently, because everybody is going to come to you with questions. How can we look at this? How did you do this? This looks so differently to what I'd have thought. And it actually ends up engaging with people more. Richard Branson, he's one of the most famous dyslexic people out there. And he ran an amazing initiative to put dyslexic thinking as an actual skill on LinkedIn, which I've proudly ticked because it is absolutely something that you should celebrate and absolutely something that will pay off for you in the future. The next thing I wanted to talk about is university. So I didn't attend university and it has absolutely not affected my career pathway at all. Whether you go to university or not is completely your choice, but sometimes I feel like it's the only thing that is pushed and that you should strive for. When actually all of the years that my friends were at uni, I was exploring completely different careers, what that looks like. I'll talk about that in a minute. But it isn't the only way to learn. All of us learn and want to grow in completely different ways, and it is not the be all and end all for you to have a successful career. I learned on the job with all of my jobs, and I feel extremely privileged and grateful that I've learned a lot of skills, probably before my friends did after they graduated, that they're now learning now. So I feel like, if anything, it's put me on the forefront a little bit. And education is always there. It's not going anywhere. Those universities aren't shutting down. Education is not going anywhere. Amazing organisations like Anthony Nolan and probably thousands of other organisations in the UK will actually fund you to do education alongside your job once you know what you want a qualification on, once you know what you want to learn. So I'm actually going to be undertaking an apprenticeship while I'm doing my current job, which will give me an equivalent of a level 5 apprenticeship, which is like a foundation degree, but it's in what I want to learn in that will help me progress in my career the way that I want to. So if you're thinking that university isn't for you right now or in the future, please don't panic. That will not affect your career. And your career doesn't have to be a straight line. Mine certainly has not been. I have done so many different jobs. I can't even tell you all of them, but I have done everything from retail to cabin crew to recruitment. And now I've ended up in what I probably see myself staying for the foreseeable future. I love Anthony Nolan with all of my heart, but I think if this was the first job I ever got, I probably wouldn't have recognized that. What I learned along the way is who I am as a person, the way that I like to work. I think it's so easy to have a career set in your mind. And then when you get there, you actually hate the lifestyle that is given you. So, for example, I really wanted to be an air hostess, and that was absolutely what I wanted to do, and nobody could tell me any different. I started it and realized that shift work absolutely does not suit my lifestyle. I did not enjoy getting up at 1 a.m. and flying through the night and then getting back and not being able to see my friends and family in the day, not being able to go and do the things that I wanted, not having any structure to my life. That was just not how I found happiness. You know, it's an amazing opportunity, but I realized quite quickly that wasn't for me. And that is absolutely okay to change your mind. It's really important that you work in an environment where you get on with the people next to you and you think really similarly. So when I worked in recruitment, everybody was really finance orientated. Everybody wanted to hit their targets. They were quite competitive, and money really motivated them. I'm just not that way inclined. My brain doesn't work in that way. I felt really kind of out of the loop with my colleagues, and it made me feel quite isolated because I just didn't relate to any of my colleagues. But I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't have done that job. And now I'm in an 8 to 4 job, Monday to Friday, which I love because it gives my life structure. I have time to be creative at work, which makes me happy. I work from home and in the office, which I felt like gives me that nice flexibility that I really like, but that's not the same for everybody else. So if you find yourself going through a few different jobs and think, oh, none of this is for me, and it can feel quite daunting when people have kind of got their degrees and they've got their first job and they love it and they've kind of stayed in their job for a really long time, that can feel like you're really behind. But if anything, all you're doing is learning exactly how you want to live the rest of your life. You know, your job is not your entire life, but it takes up a big part of your life, and so it needs to be the right fit for you. And what I've learned along the way is I've met so many people, made so many friends, and figured out how I want to work, what success means to me, and where I want to be in the future. So they would be my big career tips.
Okay, my turn. So my history is that I went to university straight out of sixth form. So at sixth form, I studied 2 sciences, biology and chemistry, and I studied fine art as well. I'll come on to that bit in a little bit. But I went to University of Manchester and did animal biology straight away. I did that because I had a real good interest in science. I didn't know what I wanted to do in the future, but I just looked at something that I cared about and thought, if I stick with this, I'm pretty confident I'm going to find something here that will work for me. I have been correct. It's a bit of an oddball because I now work in human sciences and I don't work in animal sciences. A lot of my friends from university now work in conservation or in zoos all around the world, or in London. And I'm in human sciences, so that's a bit odd. But overall, I think I've still landed on something that I do really care about. And that's what my first point is, really, is do something that matters to you. I remember at my age, there's a lot of conflicting interests, a lot of people telling you what to do. In the end, if I'm honest, I looked at a teacher of mine who I really respected and had a really good chat with them and asked them about what they did. I didn't do exactly the same path as them. I haven't done exactly the same path, but it did guide me on what sort of thing I would like to go down. And I've had a really good time doing it so far. I don't love day-to-day science. So as I said, I'm the head of a team now. I'm not the best at pipetting. Day-to-day experiments don't do it for me, but I've got a really good team of scientists, and I've taken opportunities that have come up to explore what is out there in my field and find people management and project management that just works a lot better for me. I get to look ahead, like I said at the beginning, and think about what we need to do in the future and work with loads of other departments to look at a long-term strategy for our company. When I was 18, sorry, when I was 18, when I was 21, I had no idea that I'd be working in this kind of thing. It was just sort of a big bracket of science, and that is completely fine, just to stick with something that you do love. You won't always be someone who knows where they're going to be when they're 30, 35, 40, 50, and that's completely fine. Research into jobs that are available in your area is always great. If you're just looking at jobs to kind of get guidance, keep your searches broad. Look at science, look at laboratory, just scroll and scroll and scroll. There are so many roles out there that you don't even know exist yet, that I don't even know exist, that could be really good fits. So just keep your minds open to that and explore what matters to you. That's the most important thing in my eyes. My second point is about diversity. So the diversity of your interests. At your guys' age, at the age of, I don't know, 15 to 18, I was doing really well in English literature. I loved reading. I did really well in science. And I loved painting as well. So I was just all over the shop, to be honest. And each teacher was coming to me saying, I really want you to do this. My parents had different views and things like that. And so my second point is about the kind of worry that you're going to lose something, I suppose. And I remember feeling this really strongly, like, had I made the right decision? But overall, any of those decisions was going to be right because I cared about it. I went with science in the end for various reasons, but I maintained my interest in literature. I continued to paint in my spare time, and I do little groups for that as well. You can do volunteering. So if you have diverse interests and you're not someone who knows exactly what they want to do with their life, just kind of weigh it up and see what fits right. But any of them will be the right fit. And as Jemma said, squiggly careers exist. You can always move around. You can always go into education. You can always do training on the side or things on the side to get you to where you want to be. If you find that actually this doesn't really work for me, I'm going to try something else. So be brave in that as well, and just give what you do a shot. And my last one is about deserving to be there. So it's a bit of a funny one, but I think when you get into the workplace, there's this big sentiment about family and like belonging. And I do really buy into that. I do love the organization I work for. And getting in there is working with a bunch of friends, to be honest. But I think the word that I would use instead of belonging somewhere is about deserving to be somewhere. I think that what I try and push with my team is that they have done the work. They've done they've had their immediate question and answer to get them into a job, their interviews, and they deserve to be there. If they're put on a project, they deserve to be there because I think they're good enough. And I think when you get into work, it can always be, or even uni or your next steps, whatever that may be, doubt can creep in sometimes where you're unsure because you've got to make all these decisions through life and it takes you on different paths. And ultimately just remind yourself that if you're enjoying it and you're committed to it, then just back yourself 100%. In my career so far, there have been opportunities that have come up that I've been fortunate to receive and I've worked for. And I've gone home and cried and had to worry about it with my partner or my friends or whatever. And it's all gone okay. But the flip side is there have been opportunities that I've thought, I'm not good enough for this. They're not going to pick me. I don't know why they're going to pick me. And they just, they pass you by and you'll never know whether you could have been successful or not. So take that pressure off yourself and just back yourself completely. Believe that you're supposed to be there. People believe in you. Your future managers will believe in you. Parents, teachers, whatever situations you guys are in. If you enjoy it, you're committed to it, just back yourself.
Hi. So in terms of my career, I guess, was also quite kind of a mix of unusual and traditional. So when I was 15, I kind of came across the kind of concept of being like a research scientist, and I loved sciences, and I was like, cool, this is what I'm going to do. And I was that person who like planned out their career for the next like 20 years at the age of 15. So I applied for an internship that was part of the Nuffield Science Programme. So it was like 4 weeks in the summer between year 12 and year 13, and I worked in a lab in London for 4 weeks, and that was my first time getting to actually be in a scientific kind of lab space. And I was like, yeah, this is definitely amazing. I love it. And I was kind of asking the people around me, like, what were their careers? And a lot of them did their undergraduate degrees and then did PhDs. And then the kind of head of the team was also someone who, a lot of heads of these kind of scientific labs that are associated with universities are also kind of lecturers. So I was like, great, that's the career ladder like mapped out. And I really followed that up until I was 26. So I did an undergraduate in biochemistry, and then I did a PhD in molecular biology. And it was great. There's me in a lab coat. And I spent a lot of time working on fruit flies, which were really fun. But as I kind of was coming towards the end of my PhD, I was kind of looking at the realities of what leading a research group was like. And it wasn't working in a lab, it was writing papers and writing grants. And that actually didn't really appeal to me so much anymore. And because I'm quite dramatic, I also did a lot of crying and thinking like, where if I don't want to do that, like, where's my ambition gone? Like, I was kind of known as this very ambitious person. So it was a bit of a little identity crisis. So I guess my advice here is really don't be afraid to change your mind or change your path. I know kind of Jemma and Carl have both touched on this. I think I was quite rigid in my thinking. And so changing direction was more of like a mental challenge for me than anything else, because it really become a part of my identity that I was going to like run my own research group. And in the end, kind of keeping an open mind to new and different opportunities, as well as kind of keeping my mind open to learning new skills, that really kind of helped me keep my options open ultimately. And I'm kind of somewhere quite different, but really still just as rewarding. Like, I still work as a researcher now. But what's quite different now is that I'm a computational researcher. I don't work in a lab anymore. And so during my PhD, I learned how to code. And I spent and did a lot of time doing my own computational analysis for the results that I did and got in the lab. And that helped me transition into being like a full-time computational biologist. And I think kind of the second point here is kind of when applying to new things, you're always telling a story of your career. And so each time I applied for a placement or a job, I always kind of thought very carefully about how I connect my most recent experience to the next opportunity, even if they're quite different, and even if that wasn't the trajectory you'd planned on when you had applied to your last job. There's always kind of a thread I think you can tell in your story and your career to kind of connect the dots. And I think a small connection or link can really help people see your potential to grow into a role. And that's how I got this job at Anthony Nolan. It was, yes, I've not done full-time computational biology before, but actually I know how to talk to lab scientists, which was a part of the job, because I had that experience as a lab scientist, and I know how to bridge the gap between like lab work and computational work. And they were happy to kind of, a lot of companies are happy to kind of, especially at a junior level when you're early on, to kind of grow into a role and give you time to kind of get to grips with things. And then finally, the last point is really about community. I've really learned so much from my friends and course mates and colleagues. Carl also said this, that he enjoys coming into work. I mean, so do I. This photo here these are my teammates. I find each of them, really inspiring for different reasons. Some of them help really push me kind of scientifically. Some just are really enjoyable to like work with and collaborate with, and they're so generous with their time. So that all really helps keep me motivated. But I also find for myself, I mean, this might not be for everyone, but I find learning with friends, and I guess I'm just quite a social being, I kind of find learning in groups a really helpful way to kind of continue learning. So during my PhD, I really wanted to practice my presentation skills more. And often in science, the places where you do presentations are like sometimes seem quite intimidating environments. They're kind of at conferences or in big public groups. And so I, with another friend, set up like a research and progress presentation series. So people would take it in turns presenting little bits of their work. It didn't have to be a whole complete thing, but it was just to get those skills up. And that was a really nice way for us to all share and practice our presentation skills. And now at Anthony Nolan, I set up a code club because I came in knowing that there were people who were better than me than coding in my team, and they're still much better than me at coding. And so in the kind of weekly code club, we get to share what we're learning, or ask for help, or just practice kind of logic problems. And it's a really enjoyable, well, we have them on a Friday afternoon, so it's a really enjoyable kind of end to the week. And yeah, I think if you can find people who really push you in that way, that can really be helpful. And I think part of what the others have said about like taking your time as well, I think it took me maybe a year into my PhD before I found like my real group of people, and it took a lot of like lunches, eating and socializing with different groups. But once I found like that kind of click feeling, I was like, great, this is wonderful. So yeah, I hope that kind of community aspect also kind of helps you both in your personal life, but also in your professional life too.
Thank you guys so much. It's always so interesting to learn about other people's careers, especially from somebody that works in a STEM organisation but doesn't work in STEM. Listening to the amazing people that I work alongside is just really inspirational. So thank you guys. So some ideas for you to take away. The Hero Project, Carl mentioned it earlier, and that was created, our beautiful video was created for the Hero Project. And what that is an educational visit to your school, where one of our amazing volunteers comes in and gives you a lot more detail about stem cell transplants, how you can help, signing up to the stem cell register, and donation processes and everything like that. We can come in and deliver all of that for you. If that's something you're interested in, please do speak to your teachers, and teachers listening, please do reach out to us. We would love to come in. It's a free educational visit, and then we return again for a donor recruitment event where anybody that wanted to join the register can, with the support of our volunteers signing up. That doesn't mean donating straight away. That means signing up to the register, sitting and waiting on a list, and if anybody in the world matches with you at any point up until you're 60, then you go on to donate. So we can talk you through all of that, so please do reach out if that's something you're interested in. And the other thing that you can do, if you kind of listened to this and thought that's something that you'd like to be a part of, and you would be happy to donate your stem cells, you can join the register yourself if you would like to, and you're over the age of 16. Just go on our website. There's a link, there's all of the information that you might have, there's frequently asked questions and things like that. So please do go and have a look at that if you're interested.
There's also awareness is also a huge and really important part of what we do. So and that we kind of rely on for other people to kind of help spread the word, share things on social media, kind of talk to your friends and your family about if you're thinking about it, or if you think there's others that you might know who would like to donate or join the register. And yeah, I think kind of reaching out to whoever you think and other groups as well is a huge part.
Yeah, and then in addition to those, there's volunteering, which is a huge part of the work that young people do for Anthony Nolan. So you have the youth panel, which is where we go out to get information and advice, input from youth towards the jobs that Anthony Nolan does, the role that Anthony Nolan does in the stem cell community. We've mentioned a number of events that happen throughout the year for Anthony Nolan. So I mentioned Pride. We are at Black Pride in a few weeks' time, a month's time. Plenty of others, but one of the biggest things that we do that you guys may become aware of or may already be aware of is Marrow, which we have mentioned a few times, which is the university society. And it's made up of hundreds, if not 1,000 or so, volunteers all over the country. And they're really key to getting us people onto the register. My team particularly see every single swab sample come into the lab and book them in. That's one of the jobs in my team. And when it comes to uni starting time, when it's welcome week, we see a huge influx of that, which is amazing. And that's all done through the Marrow group to get people onto the register. And then finally, fundraising, as we mentioned, money is incredibly important in any organization, but especially for us as a charity and a charity who works to save lives and improve the lives of patients, it's really important for us. So we really do respect and thank our volunteers for all the work that they do in that area.
Sorry about that. There was a thank you slide there. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing that presentation with us. What we're going to do now is go into some questions because we had some in. So yeah, thank you again for that. That was really, really great. And also to hear about your individual roles as well and how it has been for you. That has been really, really helpful, I'm sure, for our young people listening. One of the questions that has come through, I'm going to come to you, Carl, for this. And please jump in, Jemma and Michaela, if you've got answers, because you just spoke about fundraising. Someone's asking, how do you get started with fundraising? Like, if you want to raise money for something, I guess they mean, like, how do you get started with that?
Yeah, so it's very on point at the moment, actually, because I'm asking for a lot of money for a big project in work at the moment to improve some of our services. From my perspective, as somebody who would be receiving that funding, we would go to the fundraising department and develop a pitch for them. So I would have already developed a proposal to run through directors and the CEO to say, this is the project, here's what I intend to do with it, it's going to improve X, Y, and Z, it might improve turnaround times or patient experience, and I'd need to show measurables on that to say by 5% turnaround times will be reduced by a day or something like that. And then the big thing would be, and it's going to cost you this much money. And that's the bit that you would have to justify. So then you take that pitch to the fundraising group, and they have individual relationships with funders who routinely support us. So they could be large amounts of money that they want to give us every year, or it could be smaller amounts of money. And in some cases, an example could be a family who had a member of their family go through a stem cell transplant, and therefore they really want to support us because they have uniquely benefited from the work that we do and they want to give back in that way, which is obviously lovely. So the fundraising group will go to those funders and ask for that money and pitch it to them. And I had to do a little presentation to some of them to talk it through. Similarly, some of the funding that we don't talk about is just in the day-to-day. If you really think about it as a charity, our salaries, keeping the heating on, all those things are funded by us as a charity, and it comes from the government give us some money, or those donations that we talk about. So it is really important that we keep pushing it forward. But the process of larger donations is what I went through. But I think it's really important not to forget that just to keep us running, it requires selflessness on the part of the general community too.
Yeah, that's really, really good. Thank you for answering that and shedding some light on that. So we have some questions here from some schools. This one is kind of like a dilemma kind of question. So it's from St. David's High School. And this student is asking, would you consider all sectors of medicine to be life-saving? And they're thinking about dentistry, so I know it's a bit different. And they're not sure if they should pick that or go and do medicine. So they're asking for some advice there, I think. Who would like to take that one?
I don't mind saying my initial thoughts. So I suppose the first question of, do we consider everything to be life-saving? If that is what matters to you, if it matters that you're saving a life, then that is quite a specific criteria that you want to get into and expand on that. But I do think that there is so much to say about improving people's lives as well. So something like dentistry, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's certainly huge risks with dental issues as well that dentists have a role in. But I think there is so much to say about improving people's lives and not just saving them too. So if you do care about being able to say, I save people's lives, then that's that route, and you could probably justify dentistry to be in there as well. But I think feel free to expand on that and think, if you're getting 10 years, 15, 20 years down the line, it's incredible to be able to say that you give people an extra chance of life or improve their conditions when they're in pain, for example.
That's really great.
One thing I'd add to that, sorry, is Michaela spoke a lot about this when we spoke about this before, but going and doing like work experience or going into industry and asking people questions about their career and about their day-to-day life and all of those things. So I would really advise, if you're like stuck between two things, to go and do that with both of them. Speak to dentists, speak to doctors, talk to them about their lives, talk to them about what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy. Because you'll find that actually something that a doctor says that they don't enjoy, you might think, actually, I don't enjoy that either. And maybe you speak to the dentist and they say, we enjoy this, that, and the other, and you might really resonate with that. So I would definitely say that's a massive decision to make, and it's definitely something that you should go and do a week, you know, volunteering in A&E, and a week volunteering in a dentist practice. Speak to them, get a feel for it. The hours are going to be so different. The lifestyle is going to be so different. The people that you're going to work with are going to be so different. So being in that environment is really, I'd say, one of the only ways that you can really feel to make a confident decision.
That's really great advice. Thank you for that. Another question here. Someone is asking, how important is research? I know, Michaela, you spoke about research. How important?
Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm very passionate about research, so I think it's hugely important. Yeah, because it really, it's the kind of behind the scenes, maybe slightly to medicine and things. And most, you know, no drug treatments are going to come through without the research steps first. I worked on some like very obscure research projects. Like I said, my PhD was on fruit flies, but I was looking at stem cells within fruit flies, and that kind of connects now to, like, you know, also human stem cells, which is what Anthony Nolan's focuses in. So sometimes research might seem really abstract or really far removed, but actually, you know, we use lots of different ways to kind of get closer and closer to the problems. Yeah. And I think Anthony Nolan really values research. We have a really thriving research institute here, which I love being a part of. And it's really nice to see a medical charity have an in-house research department. There's lots of medical charities where they fund research to happen elsewhere, but Anthony Nolan, like, we do it in-house, and it means that we get to see lots of different types of research too. So there's like the medical and like kind of scientific research, but across the organization there are people doing research into kind of how do we make patient services better, what are patients' experiences in. So as well as kind of the lab research, you also have kind of sociology research happening as well, which is really great to see the whole spectrum.
Yeah, that's really, really good. And I guess you get to learn every day, and you get to learn as you go along. Yeah, and your knowledge increases, which is amazing. Thank you for that. Another question here. Are there any unexpected skills that you needed for your role that you didn't learn at school or uni?
I'll start with this one. I love it when people talk about soft skills, especially at school. Soft skills are very taboo. A lot of my job is soft skills. So things that you're probably sitting there thinking that you will be thinking about your career is like what subject at school you're good at, how your brain works in terms of maths and science and all of those things. But the way that my brain has to work to be successful at my job is being really good at relationship building. So connecting with people, engaging with people, influencing people. If you're somebody that is really easy making friends, you can talk to a big group of people and kind of influence them to make a decision that you would feel strongly about. If you can manage difficult conflicting situations, so if maybe two of your friends have argued and you're always the peacemaker that kind of connects them, they're all relationship building skills that are super valuable when you're looking at careers and engagement, communication. My job you wouldn't have even heard of when you were at school. I think it's really important to remember. I saw a stat the other day, 65% of the jobs that you will be doing as your generation don't exist right now. So the skills that you probably have that you don't know are skills like relationship building, speaking with people, and making people feel valued. All of those will have really big careers behind them, but you just don't think of them as careers. So if you're thinking, actually, I found science like so interesting at school, but I knew it wasn't something that I was going to pursue or be involved with directly, but now I get to work alongside these amazing researchers and scientists every single day, and I get to be in this space even though I don't always know what's happening. All of our department is a massive part of how we work as an organisation, but a lot of the skills that I think come from my department are those soft skills that you don't learn at school, but you just might naturally feel quite comfortable sitting with.
That's really, really good, because it's like it could be your own kind of character or personality that you have that actually brings more out of your work than you can realise. So that's really, really good to know. Thank you for that. A question here from Winstanley College. Hope I said that right. I know you've mentioned a bit about all of your roles, but they're asking, what would a day in the life of someone working in this industry look like? Sorry, my words got tongue-tied there. What would a day in the life of someone working in this industry look like?
If we go around, I don't mind going first. So in my team, we get into work at 9 a.m. and we have a daily huddle. And the huddle is all of us coming together with a cup of coffee, everyone talking about how tired they are because it's Monday morning or whatever, and what is coming up today. So we'll talk about who's got some weird meetings that are booked in, what samples are we expecting to come in that are a bit different, that are going to be a bit challenging, that we need to ask about. Anything coming up. If we've got specific runs, we test for viruses. If there's specific runs that need to be done that day, just kind of as a collective, because there's 9 of us, getting our days down and saying, okay, well, you're on the rota for this, this, and this. I've got a meeting here, gonna need some cover, blah, blah, blah. My role is outside of the lab, so I'm in the lab space, but I don't do the work. But as coming into that role as a scientist, you'd then be on the rota for that day on a specific technique, getting samples through DNA extraction, for example, and taking those steps, taking a sample from 9 a.m. all the way to 5 p.m. when you hand it over to somebody else. My job's more meetings focused, I suppose, and presentations like this, and talking with our departments about what we're going to do to take the research that Michaela was talking about and bringing that into clinical work, I suppose, is part of my job too. And yeah, I'm lucky to work 9 to 5 each week and 2 days from home, which is really nice. If you in the future end up in roles where you can work from home a bit, champion work from home as much as you can. But that's the day-to-day for me.
Okay, so my day-to-day looks really different every day, as it does for a lot of my colleagues in engagement or in register development, but very much the same as Carl. So on a Monday, we come in and we have an hour-long meeting with our team, where again, we're chatting about what we did at the weekend, catching up. Like Michaela and Kyle, we're very much friends with everybody in our department, which is really nice. So it kind of gives that moment to just kind of be friends and settle in. Then talking about what the week ahead looks like, reflecting on maybe anything that happened last week. But a lot of my work is split. So 50% of it is relationship management with partners I already have a relationship with. So it's about keeping them happy, giving them a call, dropping them a text, like however they like to communicate. They're all quite different. Lots of them like to WhatsApp, lots of them like to pick up the phone and they have one question to ask me, but I'll be on the phone with them for like 45 minutes because they're just super chatty, and I have learned how to best keep them happy. So a lot of my work is about just catching up with them, seeing how they're doing, kind of influencing them to do a bit more of what we want, and also creating opportunities for them that benefit them as an organisation. So one of the things that we do for our partners is give them lab tours, because it's so interesting and really exciting for them to go down and actually see firsthand the work that we're doing. It's definitely the more exciting part of Anthony Nolan. So we organise things like that for them to keep them motivated. But then another part of my job is new business. So finding new organisations, partners, charities, groups of people that we can work with to allow them to recruit people to the register on our behalf. So that's all about kind of prospecting, figuring out new ways of working, being quite creative. So one of our partners is Be More Fab. I don't know if anybody watched the Pride of Britain Awards, but a lovely little girl called Florrie won the Young Hero of the Year, and her family are now one of our new partners. So a big part of the work we're doing at the moment is figuring out how we work with that family, what motivates them, what they want to achieve with us, and doing different kind of building activities to make sure that our relationship is strong moving forward. But a lot of our work is kind of learning and keeping up to date with everything that we're doing as an organisation. It's super important as such a big, wide organisation that has really complex strategic aims and directions, that we really understand what's going on within our own organisation so we can feed that back to our partners. But also working with other teams and collaborating with other teams. So making sure that we're helping and assisting where we can, and also like taking the support when we can from other teams. So being collaborative is a massive part of the work that I do as well. But like Carl, I work from home sometimes as well, which I love. It's not for everybody. Some people love going into the office every single day, but I live on the south coast, so London for me is a couple of hours away. So I go into the office maybe 2-3 times a month, and the rest of the time I work from home 8 till 4. That works better for me. I get to finish early, so when it's sunny, I can go down to the beach, have an ice cream. I love that. But yeah, working somewhere where there's kind of flexi hours, flexi working in the office, I love it. It's really great.
Awesome, that sounds really good. Yeah, and Michaela as well. How's it for you?
Yeah, so my day-to-day is, I come into the office 4 days a week out of 5. So even though as a computational person, I could work from home every day, as a team, like our culture is really more in office. And so we are often like talking to each other and asking each other for help and ideas, or scribbling on whiteboards together, as you know, that happens. I mean, not all the time, but like, you know, once a week that the whiteboard will come out. So we have a pretty good like in-person culture, and that really works for me, which I get on well with that. And so my day-to-day kind of looks like, you know, I'm a senior person in the team, so I do have like meetings like on most days, either with my manager or maybe someone in a different department. So I work quite closely with communications team. So I talk a lot to our science writer about what I'm doing, or he'll ask me, can you fact check this thing? So I help kind of that kind of collaboration between my team and other teams. And then the rest of the time when I'm not in meetings, I'm then pretty focused on my research. So then that will be often coding and doing data analysis. Sometimes it's more to do with infrastructure of coding, so kind of creating databases and how do we store our data, how do we make it reproducible and reliable. And then sometimes towards the end of a project, it will be about writing that up and turning that into like a research paper for the public, or working on a presentation to give at a conference. So those are kind of the main tasks in my day-to-day, but it's a very 9-to-5 job, so I keep my hours pretty strict on that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And we've come to the end of our session today. We do have loads of questions in, but we haven't got time to go through them, which is sad. But I'm sure I can maybe send them over to you and you can look at them if you have time for that. But yeah, thank you so much for being here, Jemma, Michaela, and Kyle, sharing your days with us and what it's like at Anthony Nolan. It's been really, really lovely. And I'm sure you've inspired a lot of people watching to go forth and be great in their careers. So yeah, thank you so much for your time this morning.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, everyone, that's all we have time for today. There's a feedback poll live right now, so please let us know how you found today's session. If you haven't got time to fill it in, there's going to be one via email as well, so look out for that and let us know how you found today. Our speakers would love to know as well. And also, there will be more talks like this throughout the year, so please do join us for another one. It's been great having you here, and have a lovely rest of your day. Bye, everyone.